do that. Sweet. So welcome to the first sort of trial meeting of, I guess, the Chaos AI detection action. I don't know if you want to call it a working group because it's probably not that big, but it's like side projects that sort of assists like three other working groups. I don't know. Um, yeah, it seems like I think this effort essentially came together just from like this idea. I mean, it seems like this idea. I've kind of had this idea for a little while, but I think having talked about it in Chaos, it seemed like it piqued various people's interests from Andrew with ecosystems and Shlok's PhD research and just Chaos Augur Grimoire Lab, like being able to use it. So I think this is a kind of neat little like example of working upstream and working together. Um, do you want to kind of go around and do some introductions briefly?
Yeah, sounds good.
Wait, I can start. So I'm Adrian. My most of my work up until now has been, I mean, even still now, in the Augur working group. I'm one of the sort of more active maintainers of Augur. Work closely with Sean and most of the other Augur core team. I'm pretty active in that channel, just helping kind of untech dedify and improve the Augur code base. My day job is working at Red Hat's open source programs office. I'm kind of on the data team with Callie and Kaio and some other people helping kind of we run an Augur instance internally for Red Hat stuff, but the majority of my work is all just upstream community in Chaos basically. Um, and obviously every company under the sun is now interested in AI and like how do we measure, how do we evaluate, how do we use more of it or evaluate how it's being used. And I think there's also been a lot of stuff going on in the open source community that scared people in terms of AI. So it seems like there's a lot of interest here. Anyone else want to go up?
I think I can go next. So, yeah, hi, I'm Shlok. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Florida. Uh, my research mainly work revolves around how sort of communication dynamics within open source repositories affect the security practices and repositories. And yeah, I've been involved with Augur very recently. I think it's been what 4 months now. Uh, so yeah, it's been a good experience, and yeah, Adrian and I were discussing about AI guidelines and stuff like that for Augur, and that's also sort of ran into this whole can we sort of build a heuristic based detection tool or something for AI detection, and that's how I got involved in this mouthful group that we're now calling Data AI Detection. I completely forgot the name. Yeah, but yeah,
We need a better
that's
name.
how. Yeah,
I already had a repo called AI detection in the same code folder as well. So it's like, oh, I have to kind of like force tab my way through to get to it.
the Data AI Detection. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew. I'm in the UK. I work on ecosystems primarily and hang out in various chaos working groups. The main one I'm involved in is the package manager metadata group. I had kind of already been picking up a number of bits of signal in ecosystems. Before Christmas, I added in the detection for the kind of like co-authors and signed off messages in commit messages, and then also went through and pulled out a load of like labels that show up a lot that are created by, like if you make a PR from the, I guess it's called Codex now, but it used to be called ChatGPT, like code that would leave a label that said basically was its indication that it was made by that thing rather than using the bot account. There are all kinds of different ways that these things work, but all of them were just kind of like disparately built into different pieces of ecosystems. There's not like a nice standalone piece. I also got a project I've been working on this year called Git Packages, which basically is like ecosystems, but you run it locally and it analyzes the history of your dependencies for a given repo. And that is much more interesting to be able to go like, oh, I can run this analysis on a given repo locally. Well, this plugs straight into this detection thing. But also then if you want to do analysis of lots of packages locally, then it's also very helpful to be able to go through and clone all of those the repos of each package and say, okay, well, let's do local detection. I don't need to go anywhere else. And then ecosystems naturally ends up being a place where it's like, oh, we can do some shared public good analysis where we run this code against public repos and then record the results so that people can just do a quick lookup rather than needing to wait for, say, a CI job to run on everything. If we're going to be analyzing it anyway, then just fling the results to a S3 bucket or similar and then cache them in Cloudflare.
Awesome. Anyone else want to introduce themselves?
Hello everyone. I don't know
Hello.
if I'm okay. So my name is Emmanuel. I stay in Nigeria. I'm a junior software developer with a Canadian startup, an IoT-based Canadian startup. I'm a full stack web developer. So I'm totally new to open source. I just joined the Augur group recently. So I just saw the meeting link. So I decided to join and just get conversant with the ecosystem of the project. So yeah, it's been really nice getting to know everyone and understand what's really happening. Thank you.
Awesome. You were in the Augur call just now, right?
Yes, but I came quite late.
Yeah, no worries. All the chaos meetings are generally kind of recorded and on YouTube. If you want to go back and watch the last couple of them, I think it usually takes about a week or half a week for I think Elizabeth to upload them. But yeah, I'm
Okay.
happy to help you navigate your way around chaos if there's something in particular you're looking for. But glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'll thank you. I'll check the videos out. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. So I wasn't sure if you sound like you're breaking up, but I got it. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, I kind of mentioned earlier kind of what this is and how it came together. Like it's kind of just like everyone here kind of has at least one, if not more than one, sort of project that there's sort of interest in. There's kind of interest in this kind of like having a tool that kind of just is effectively, I guess, an adapter layer between all the different sort of varying standards ish that are out there as far as how to disclose like shared authorship or AI authorship of code or other contributions. I think this is sort of mostly focused on code, I guess. But like there's always all the like you could have like a co-authored by on a Git commit. You could I feel like I saw a standard at one point or standard like people using like generated by or assisted by to sort of
In the
cite what
description of the PR
yeah.
or sometimes in the commit message as
Yeah, I
well.
was
And then
seeing
you
it
have
mostly as
your,
like a commit flag, like a extra sign off or something. Yeah, but
mm,
but yeah, I mean, like people disclose it. Like people say, "Oh, I used Gemini to do this in PR comments," or like there's so many different ways that people sort of cite their sources as far as like, "Hey, I used AI for this." And I think especially for the projects that don't outright ban it, but are maybe like, hey, we want you to just like Augur. I think the direction that I think the Augur policy is going is like we're not going to ban it. We just want to make sure that all the contributions, AI or not, are held to a certain standard of quality. And if you're using AI, you should be disclosing that, like just like you would cite your sources if you're copying code from Stack Overflow or whatever. Um, just and also just to help us understand how AI is being used. So I think that's valuable too, is like helping projects understand how AI is being used in their contributions and feeding into tools like Augur. Am I missing anything? Is other people have other
no, I
cool
mean, like
uses?
the use case that I kind of thought might be interesting, but also most people wouldn't look to it is once you're collecting it en masse, then you can also go back to the AI tools and go like, here is a large collection of data of stuff that has been produced by your tool for more and kind of quantitative analysis. But obviously that requires mining a lot of things to be able to give that over effectively.
So like kind of providing data back to these AI companies.
Yeah, like I mean, they're probably doing it already, but you can also then be able to say like, oh, look, here's Claude has contributed to 10% of the top like most critical Python packages or something like that. That like kind of ability to detect it is helpful, and that's a good and or bad thing. Like depends on your
Yeah,
your stances, but it's a fact that can be, or at least like for the ones that we can detect, because obviously you don't have to put any kind of indication in that you're using anything. So it's
that's
basically going
actually
on like whatever the signals are available.
yeah, that's actually really interesting because I saw so one of the I don't know this probably wasn't super inspiring for this project, but I've seen before other open source communities using tools, mostly sort of more for like I guess social metrics, but they like I think it was the Universal Blue community who built Bazite, the sort of gaming Fedora-based operating system. Um, they were using a tool to kind of keep track of like their Discord and I think Reddit and stuff too, but I think mostly Discord for this. And that I guess that metric was basically like it looked for people asking questions and then somebody responds to the question and then the question asker responds with like a thank you and it sort of tracked it like counted that. And so it's like, hey, how many sort of positive like help interactions are we getting in this community? I almost wonder if that could be interesting to kind of tie into like providing the data back to AI companies as far as like, hey, yeah, maybe Claude was used in these top repos or like, but then maybe that could tie into some of like Schloke's kind of sentiment
You could
analysis of like,
definitely
hey,
feed that into like
yeah,
sentiment analysis
yeah,
around the
exactly.
conversation as well, and go like, oh, it turns out in this ecosystem everyone hates this, so probably your PRs are bad for they train and test a lot more on Python than they do on Erlang, for example, to be able to go, here's more quantitative data that suggests that no one is merging Claude Erlang contributions in open source. At least, ecosystems only picks up stuff on public projects.
Yeah, or you could even like just, hey, we're like these PRs like were responsible for the largest share of the bugs or the smallest share of the bugs or like so I imagine a lot like in the self-driving car world, it's always like, how good is it compared to a human driver? And it's like, it's sort of maybe harder, maybe not hard to measure, but like, I imagine you could do something similar with open source. Is like, does this code have more or less bugs than the human authored code before it? Like, there's a ton of room for interesting analysis. I mean, that's probably more like data science working group territory, but like,
Yeah, just
I love
having
being
the
able to enable
raw
this.
data though to be able to then
Yeah.
pass over to other groups. Like right now, we can end up with just almost like a dictionary of here are the different ways that you can do some level of detection. Because obviously, if you're like, oh, actually, like I only care about this bot and this bot only writes in this method, I don't need to use the whole tool. I just need to like trawl through in a certain kind of way, or I can use this API to do this rather than like, I mean, in some cases, you might see it in the GitHub archive data. And then you're like, great, I don't need to fetch anything other than I just trawl through the GitHub archive data to find this particular string. One, brilliant. But in other cases, you're like, oh, I can't get, there's no Git ref data in GitHub archive. So uh, I have to go and, fetch every repo to go and look inside its refs database.
Yeah, that's a really interesting angle that I'm excited to kind of explore more. I didn't know really much about Git refs until now, but there's been some interesting issue. I think the issue you found was issue number 2 on the repo, like that. There's some cool links in there.
Yeah, that
Um,
basically came from where I was spelunking around over Christmas in the ways that you can store extra data inside of Git. And yeah, it turns out that other people use that as well. JJ uses it as well. If you're using JJ, it makes like a JJ namespace in the refs folder and stores extra stuff there because when you push to GitHub, that data goes with it. So it's actually then everyone pulls it back down, it moves around rather than like a hook, which is only installed locally on your repo that you've checked out.
yeah.
I did open and update that PR. Thanks for the review. Um, I fixed 3 of the 4 comments, the fourth one being like the confidence levels. And I'm basically like, I don't know. We up
Yeah.
for us to decide what we want to do. Like for a CI check, you want to pass or a fail kind of thing. So then the configuration is like, right, well, how do we decide? Some of them are very easy to be like, yes, definite or not, but others are going to be pretty fluffy. So maybe we need more data to be able to give us a bit of a test case, or you started a thread of like, here are some examples. Maybe we should put some more together that we can turn into like, here's the JSON you would get from the GitHub API. Uh, can't even do it with that necessarily because you need to also check against the Git repo. But some test harness that we can then go like, okay, well, we can make sure that we're covering all of these things, and also we're not sure about this one, like, or it's like very difficult to test against.
Yeah, I almost wonder like because it seems like right now we sort of just have like a high, medium, low sort of like I guess enum, whatever the structure is called. Um, for like confidence scoring. Like I almost wonder if it'd be better. Like I feel like I've heard of more points-based things being used for like email filtering, like spam assassin and stuff, where it's like,
Mm.
oh, there's all these different heuristics we look at to try and determine if this email is legit or spam, and like each of them like either adds or subtracts points, and
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's
if it's
what I
over a
did in
certain level of
libraries IO.
points,
Was you would gain things for good behavior and lose points for bad behavior. If your version numbers weren't exactly Semver, then you're going to lose a point, for example. So we could definitely do that. It's basically just a case of coming up with some decision on how we like what things we are going to score good and bad.
yeah.
I
I'd also maybe want
would
to
err
separate.
against going like into the reputation of the user a little bit because that data can be huge. But also, some people might get very funny about having like, oh, this script then goes and analyzes how long has this person been on GitHub for example, is it's also kind of lossy because I could sell a GitHub account to someone else if they were really trying to
Yeah,
hide
as soon
that.
as they know the metric exists, it's going to get gamed. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And I also want to try and maybe move a little bit away from calling it good and bad. Like I think we could maybe still do the numeric scoring and just have it be like, here is sort of how likely this is to be AI, right? Like,
Mm.
hey, positive points are like more likely to be AI, and negative points are like, hey, here's more indicators of it being human. Um, like even maybe we could even do like run a spell check on the like. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
how
want to
many
like trust it to
emojis?
any one metric, but like hey,
Inverse
maybe run a spell
document
check
term
on the commit message
frequency
and
of like
yeah,
known unusual words that chatbots like to
more
say
than
a lot
three
more.
M dashes, like
Yeah,
more
have
than
you
one
used a
emoji.
lot of
What?
headings in your issue? I mean, we joke, but there are
Yeah.
definitely some heuristics like that like people get that kind of feel for it, even if it's not explicit. They're like, it says some things that just setting off my trigger alerts. Of course, the problem is that a lot of these bots are trained on all the existing content, so they do end up like all the emojis in readmes would just come from the JavaScript community having emojis in all their readmes. So it kind of, you know, you err towards the average, I guess, of all open source if you go too far into the like the feels of a issue. I mean, you could literally do embeddings and say like, how close is this to the embeddings of all known AI generated PR descriptions, for example? And you can say, oh, this looks a lot like it, except for that, the shorter your PR description is, the worse your embedding is going to be.
Yeah, that was one of the ideas I sort of had. Part of the kind of original idea for this was like, as sort of a side project, I almost wonder if it'd be interesting to create, because I know like there's all these AI detectors on the internet and they're varying degrees of not great. Um, as far as like, hey, put an image or put a paragraph in here, like academic in the academic world, like, hey, upload an essay and see if the student's been using AI, right? Um, and like we sort of have like virus total for like the security world where like you upload a binary and it will just scan it with every antivirus tool and it'll let you know like, oh, only one or two of these flagged, it might be fine. Or like all of them are flagging it, then it's probably malicious. And so like even if you've got a whole pile of unreliable tools, I almost wonder if you could kind of build something like that, and then we could kind of use that as part of this to like maybe as like a sort of future
Yeah, I
thing. Like,
mean, you could
can we
end up
detect
with
if
like a
people are using AI
little,
and not disclosing it?
we could train a little BERT model once you have enough detected data, right, and then we just embed the BERT model the in the binary, and it would be like, oh yeah, high confidence, low confidence. Obviously, it's much harder then to kind of reverse engineer that and go like, oh, this is exactly why this is low confidence because like, well, we smushed like a million PR descriptions and titles and things this uh, into this model and came out with a tiny binary on the other side compared to the very like discrete steps of like, oh yeah, we did these regexes and you matched
Yeah.
on three of them. Like the debug there is much easier, and like we could even have like if it's going to leave a PR comment, it could put like a hidden block of YAML that's like here is the very like verbose description of all the different checks that it
Yeah.
did, so that you can see once you get into the kind of like, oh, we have a spam model essentially. It's like, well, for one thing, maybe some people are going to be like, I want my own custom hidden spam model, or it's going to be like, well, this is entirely opaque and we can't tell you why exactly this isn't working. Of course,
Yeah.
I
I
guess the
definitely want
further
the
down
config
that you
trace.
go, you also end up in a place where you're like, do we could use AI to try and detect if it's AI, but that's a very
Yeah.
expensive way to do it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I like about this too is like I want to make sure that whatever we're doing, like if we're going to be doing the BERT model or things like that, like make sure it's configurable. So like if a
Hmm.
maintainer is like, I just want all the deterministic stuff. I don't want any variability in whether or not this is AI. Just like show me the deterministic ones. Maybe there's a flag. Like we pick a sensible default and then just let them customize it. Um, because then like everyone's gonna have probably a different label they apply or whatever. But I think even just having that be explicitly defined, like you set up this action on GitHub or wherever, and you say, hey, I want AI things to be labeled with this label. I'm sure we could write a small piece of code in Augur to check if this action is installed, read that config line, and then just dynamically use that
Oh
to
yeah,
like
yeah,
detect
I
in
like
Augur. Like
that.
even just the existence of the config, but maybe there's other ways to do it too. As far like I've seen, I think there's like the AI, there's like some AI attribution spec. I think I linked in one of my issues. Like maybe it could post a comment with like a string that meets that spec, and so we can just scan for that or what like whatever. I don't quite know
Hmm.
exactly how we'd be making this data available to like other analysis, like broader analysis tools like Augur that would look across whole orgs or whole sets of repos. But there's options, and I think that'll sort of solidify as we play with this.
Uh, so what's the next steps then?
I'm not sure. I know. I mean, it seems like we've got that PR. I think that's a really good like. I mean, I wasn't expecting such a big PR, but like, I mean, it's a new project. I guess that's fine for now.
Yeah,
Um,
I just took a lot of what I'd learned on Git working on Git packages and took all the CLI stuff. Like you can do some cool stuff with Cobra to basically go like, oh, I can generate you a markdown content for a website. Like if we wanted
oh wow.
a Hugo generated website out of this, like I'll show you the example in Git dash packages. Where's the website gone? Um, this has a command reference which is entirely generated from um, from the CLI as like it just goes and vomits out markdown files into the correct location, and then Hugo just goes, "Oh, here's that whole thing as like individual commands with all the flags." Obviously, like what we have right now is much smaller than the amount of different commands in Git packages, but the it also gives you like
That's cool.
in easy to generate man pages and the automatic help flags as well, which is quite nice to just be able to kind of like keep all of that working as people would expect, so the tool is easy to use. And then I also cut it up into different pieces rather than trying to have one big detector file. It's just like, oh, we'll just have lots of
Yeah.
different ones, so it's easy for someone to add in one without having to kind of just stare at a honking great file of like every different possible thing in one place.
Yeah. So it seems like the last thing on this PR is the confidence scoring then, right? I think everything else has been addressed. Do we
Yes.
want to maybe just kick that and just say like merge this as it is because it's kind of our MVP and then make a new issue of like, hey, we
Yeah,
should
I
we
think
should use
so.
a
I think
scoring based system and sort of discuss that further. Okay.
that would be a good idea. Yeah. I can also take the same Go release builder and plug that in if we like, so that it just starts whenever we tag a release, then it will build and attach the binaries to the release. If you will
Yeah,
then,
that sounds
uh,
good. We can
it
make a
will
PR for
make
that.
the action faster as well because it's like, oh, I just download this from this
Yeah,
release,
we don't have to build from
or
source.
yeah, I don't have to do the like go install. You can do, obviously, it depends on how much you trust, but the at least with Go, there's no package manager in the middle. It just like is all pulled straight from the Go proxy and then built back into GitHub releases. It's all pretty transparent. I can, yeah, if we make an issue for that, I can just basically copy what I did before fairly easily.
Yeah, I
That
just made
also
an
makes
issue
the
for the
release
numeric.
notes basically automatic as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, yeah, I think definitely like once now that we've got kind of MVP, I think maybe give people a little bit of time to kind of test it, make sure it works, like make sure this is like, hey, this is something we're kind of confident releasing as like a
We
V0.1
can
or
turn it
whatever.
on for the repo itself and see if it
Yeah.
labels AI contributions as well. I need to jump in a couple minutes. But yeah, once we got the project to a good starting place, we can definitely share this a bit wider, I think, because people will be interested in, and maybe even just as a call to like give us more examples of things that we could do with flagging or testing against, even if some of them we're going to be like, oh yeah, but like we've already got good tests for that, but just getting like people dumping some examples in would be very helpful. And then obviously anyone kicking the tires, people are going to try and run it in 4Jo and be like, oh, it doesn't quite work like this. And
Yeah.
we can try and shake out some of those bits. Some of them might be might be difficult. I don't know. We'll see. But at least the binary itself would be like, oh, you can download this and you can run it in as long as you have
Yeah.
access to the Git repo.
Yeah, I just I merged your PR by the way. I think I just made a new issue from that one comment I had on the
Okay, yeah,
scoring system and
that's cool.
um so yeah, I think people can start testing. I think we can yeah, start doing some kind of release automation or some of the docs automation that I think you were talking about. Just get some stuff there so that like as we sort of develop this and as we start writing content, we can kind of give people
Adrian, by the
feedback.
way, I shared a GitHub link. It's an open source project. It's a research study that a couple of researchers published last year, where they developed their own data set of AI generated pull requests. I think it has
Oh,
some
perfect.
930.
I'll put that in the meeting notes. Thanks for that. Um, but yeah, and I think just generally, yeah, if we've got ideas of like, hey, we should be like if there's an idea someone has of like we don't know when we're gonna do this, but let's put it on the
Yeah,
road,
get it
like
in
let's
the
have it on the
issue
road. Like
tracker. People can see it.
yeah, yeah. There's I think there's
Hello?
already I made a project board for it. So as long as you just put it in an issue or something like that, and we can kind of track it and start kind of labeling stuff. So that it's like, at least the roadmap is kind of clear and like I don't know if we want to start doing more like a sprint style, like assign people stuff or not, but I guess we'll see how this shakes out.
Yeah,
Cool.
sorry, I don't know what happened. I don't know, I just automatically disconnected, but yeah, I think that I'll try to take a look at the data set sometime soon to see if we can, get some insights from there, if we can get some more sort of markers or something,
No,
some more
totally.
deterministic thing rather than, just some non-deterministic LLM, calling an LLM to see whether this was written by an LLM. That just doesn't make much sense. So I'll look into
No,
that.
I'm gonna make a detection signal
Agreed.
label so that we can kind of like if there's an issue like oh we should add this as a signal, that as a signal, we can kind of label those and just
Yep.
that
That sounds
easier.
awesome. Perfect. Yeah.
Great. Are
Thanks,
we going to
everyone.
do
Have a
another
good day.
call at some point? I guess we can just arrange that in the Slack. See how we
Yeah.
go.
I'm my plan is sort of just to like do this like so the Augur 8 knot call is every other week. It sort of alternates with the data science working group. Different link but same time slot, I think. Um, so I think maybe we just like do like same thing as this every other week. Is
Yeah,
that
that
good?
works. And if we can do it async and without any, like if everything seems to be already in the issue tracker, then that's good too.
Yeah. Sounds good.
That's good. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Bye.